to Raw 4 TV. So before I get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to the brother Daryl Sloan for once again showing love to this channel via the Cash App. Daryl Sloan, one of the big NBA historians that I've ever seen. Always a pleasure to communicate with him. We always be chopping it up, talking about different scenarios in the past and how a lot of players don't get respect from some of these, new age so-called sports experts on television. The mistruths and the half truths and the flat out lies that some of these people say on television. So once again, shout out to Daryl Sloan for showing love. And anybody want to show love to Too Raw for TV, aka Too Raw for Sports, you can do so in the links in the description box below via the PayPal or the Cash App or in the pinned comment in the comment section. So I gotta address something that Stephen A. Smith just pulled out of his ass yesterday, talking about that bubble title. Um, Talking about how LeBron delivered a title, and he made a case that the bubble title was more difficult than a traditional championship. First of all, man, let me tell you something. Um, he was saying it's more difficult because um, you were away from your family, you were in an isolated situation. We were dealing with what we were dealing with at that time. Let me say something. If you're talking about from a outside of sports concept, you know, like reality life situation, yeah, okay, there's some truth to what he said. If you're talking about from a competitive standpoint, actually being on the court, no, it was the least competitive, least stressful situation that we've had in the history of the NBA. I remember people saying, and those of you who are my age, maybe a tad bit younger, certainly older, remember this. I remember they were saying you're supposed to put a asterisk by the San Antonio Spurs title in 1999. Why did they do that? Because they said it wasn't a full schedule. You can't take a 50 game season and compare it to an 82 game season. It's not the same. Even though, when you look at the condensed schedule they had, it was tougher. Sometimes some of those guys was playing certain stretches, 4 games in 5 nights. They had to play 50 games within a stretch from February to April. Now keep in mind, as we went into the All-Star break, 50 something games had already been played. So that's a lot of basketball from February to the month of April. But they say the Spurs title, we put an asterisk by it. But this one, we supposed to put dubs on it and spinners and fucking big ass woofers on it. Fuck that. First of all, there was no fucking home crowd. There was no home court advantage. There was no opposition crowd yelling obscenities at you. We saw just now, recently, that the Lakers are imploding from their own fans yelling at them. They didn't have to deal with that. Then they had a 4 month break. So get out of here, man. They had a 4 month break. So if any inkling of a aching and twitching of an injury that AD was going to deal with and miss, he had 4 months off. And LeBron reportedly was loving it in the bubble. He loved it. He didn't have no problems. So at the end of the day, it did stress out and bother some other players. And then last but not least, they didn't exactly have the Boston, the Showtime. Well, I'm not going to say Showtime Lakers, the other Lakers. They didn't exactly have the bad boy Pistons as their opponents in the finals. They didn't have Michael Jordan's Bulls. They didn't even have Charles Barkley's Suns. They had the fucking Miami Heat, a team that they were supposed to have swept. Everybody, including myself, we all made jokes that the Lakers are going to sweep this team, and they still dropped 2 games, even though they didn't have uh, Goran Dragic for much of that series. At the end of the day, get out of my face, Stephen A. Smith. You just be saying anything sometimes, brother. You say anything. That title don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing. It was special circumstances. And everything outside of that verifies that. They missed the playoffs the first year in a regular situation. The very next year they get ousted in the first round. And they're in danger now making the play-in tournament this year. So everything shows that it took a special circumstance and, might I add, the last waning influence of Kobe Bryant and Rob Pelinka and Magic Johnson as far as putting together a championship team for them to eke that out. Because once that was gone and a certain player grew more influence into the roster, the so-called sage of basketball, Sarge Braun, we saw how the roster deteriorated and got stupid and silly, and they haven't done nothing since. But anyway, I'm done. Tell me what you guys think.